Welcome back. I like space and space travel and spaceships. I've been following a lot of space on Twitter, now called X, but I'm not really read much about space on Wikipedia. So I made a long time ago. I made a new video ready for space, both in English and in my language Danish. So everything I read about space on Wikipedia I will put in this space videos. But I'm a little bit tired tonight. It's 8 p.m. It's end of long months and been very hot the last 2 days. So I just like to get started. I have a lot of other space. I have a many read list. I have a space read list down here somewhere. So let's just. So this is an old spaceship, the Space Shuttle Challenger. It's a low orbit spaceship, and you have this Challenger disasters I will read next, but probably not tonight because it's too late. So I will go to my bed and read this.
Space Shuttle Challenger. Challenger spacecraft redirects here. For other spacecraft called Challenger, see Challenger, disambiguation, errant spacecraft. For its associated disaster, see Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Space Shuttle Challenger, of 099, was a space shuttle orbiter manufactured by Rockwell International and operated by NASA. Named after the commanding ship of a 19th century scientific expedition that traveled the world, Challenger was the second space shuttle orbiter to fly into space after Columbia, and launched on its maiden flight in April 1983. It was destroyed in January 1986 soon after launch in a disaster that killed all 7 crew members aboard. Initially manufactured as a test article not intended for spaceflight, it was utilized for ground testing of the Space Shuttle orbiter's structural design. However, after NASA found that their original plan to upgrade Enterprise for spaceflight would be more expensive than upgrading Challenger, the orbiter was pressed into operational service in the Space Shuttle program. Lessons learned from the first orbital flights of Columbia led to Challenger's design possessing fewer thermal protection system tiles and a lighter fuselage and wings. This led to it being 2,200 pounds, 1,000 kilograms, lighter than Columbia, though still 5,700 pounds, 2,600 kilograms, heavier than Discovery. During its 3 years of operation, Challenger was flown on 10 missions in the Space Shuttle program, spending over 62 days in space and completing almost 1,000 orbits around Earth. Following its maiden flight, Challenger supplanted Columbia as the leader of the Space Shuttle fleet, being the most flown orbiter during all 3 years of its operation, while Columbia itself was seldom used during the same time frame. Challenger was used for numerous civilian satellite launches, such as the first tracking and data relay satellite, the Palapar B communications satellites, the Long Duration Exposure Facility, and the Earth Radiation Budget Satellite. It was also used as a testbed for the Manned Maneuvering Unit, MMU, and served as the platform to repair the malfunctioning SolarMax telescope. In addition, 3 consecutive Spacelab missions were conducted with the orbiter in 1985, one of which being the first German crewed spaceflight mission. Passengers carried into orbit by Challenger include the first American female astronaut, the first American female spacewalker, the first African American astronaut, and the first Canadian astronaut. On its 10th flight in January 1986, Challenger broke up 73 seconds after liftoff, killing the 7-member crew of STS-51L that included Krista McAuliffe, who would have been the first teacher in space. The Rogers Commission, which convened shortly afterwards, concluded that an O-ring seal in one of Challenger's solid rocket boosters failed to contain pressurized burning gas that leaked out of the booster, causing a structural failure of Challenger's external tank and the orbiter's subsequent breakup due to aerodynamic forces. NASA's organizational culture was also scrutinized by the Rogers Commission, and the Space Shuttle program's goal of replacing the United States' expendable launch systems was cast into doubt. The loss of Challenger and its crew led to a broad rescope of the program, and numerous aspects such as launches from Vandenberg, the MMU, and Shuttle Centaur were scrapped to improve crew safety. Challenger and Atlantis were the only orbiters modified to conduct Shuttle Centaur launches. The recovered remains of the orbiter are mostly buried in a missile silo located at Cape Canaveral LC-31, though one piece is on display at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. History, edit. Challenger was named after HMS Challenger, a British corvette that was the command ship for the Challenger expedition, a pioneering global marine research expedition undertaken from 1872 through 1876. The Apollo 17 lunar module, which landed on the Moon in 1972, was also named Challenger. Construction, edit. Because of the low production volume of orbiters, the Space Shuttle program decided to build a vehicle as a structural test article, STA-099, that could later be converted to a flight vehicle. The contract for STA-099 was awarded to North American Rockwell on the 26th of July, 1972, and construction was completed in February, 1978. After STA-099's rollout, it was sent to a Lockheed test site in Palmdale, where it spent over 11 months in vibration tests designed to simulate entire shuttle flights, from launch to landing. To prevent damage during structural testing, qualification tests were performed to a safety factor of 1.2 times the design limit loads. The qualification tests were used to validate computational models, and compliance with the required 1.4 factor of safety was shown by analysis. STA-099 was essentially a complete airframe of a space shuttle orbiter, with only a mock-up crew module installed and thermal insulation placed on its forward fuselage. NASA planned to refit the prototype orbiter Enterprise, of 101, used for flight testing, as the second operational orbiter, but Enterprise lacked most of the systems needed for flight, including a functional propulsion system, thermal insulation, a life support system, and most of the cockpit instrumentation. Modifying it for spaceflight was considered to be too difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. Since STA-099 was not as far along in the construction of its airframe, it would be easier to upgrade to a flight article. Because STA-099's qualification testing prevented damage, NASA found that rebuilding STA-099 into a flight-worthy orbiter would be less expensive than refitting Enterprise. Work on converting STA-099 to operational status began in January 1979, starting with the crew module, the pressurized portion of the vehicle, as the rest of the vehicle was still being used for testing by Lockheed. STA-099 returned to the Rockwell plant in November 1979, and the original, unfinished crew module was replaced with the newly constructed model. Major parts of STA-099, including the payload bay doors, body flap, wings, and vertical stabilizer, also had to be returned to their individual subcontractors for rework. By early 1981, most of these components had returned to Palmdale to be reinstalled. Work continued on the conversion until July 1982, when the new orbiter was rolled out as Challenger. Challenger, as did the orbiters built after it, had fewer tiles in its thermal protection system than Columbia, though it still made heavier use of the white LRSI tiles on the cabin and main fuselage than did the later orbiters. Most of the tiles on the payload bay doors, upper wing surfaces, and rear fuselage surfaces were replaced with DuPont white Nomex felt insulation. These modifications and an overall lighter structure allowed Challenger to carry 2,500 pound, 1,100 kilograms, more payload than Columbia. Challenger's fuselage and wings were stronger and lighter than Columbia's. The hatch and vertical stabilizer tile patterns were different from those of the other orbiters. Challenger was the first orbiter to have a heads-up display, HUD, system for use in the descent phase of a mission, and the first to feature Phase I main engines rated for 104% maximum thrust. Construction milestones, as STA-099, edit. Date milestone. The 26th of July, 1972 contract award to North American Rockwell. The 21st of November, 1975 start structural assembly of crew module. The 14th of June, 1976 start structural assembly of aft fuselage. The 16th of March, 1977 wings arrive at Palmdale from Grumman. The 30th of September, 1977 start of final assembly. The 10th of February, 1978 completed final assembly. The 14th of February, 1978 rollout from Palmdale. Construction milestones, as of 099, edit. Date milestone. The 5th of January, 1979 contract award to Rockwell International, Space Transportation Systems Division. The 28th of January, 1979 start structural assembly of crew module. The 3rd of November, 1980 start of final assembly. The 23rd of October, 1981 completed final assembly. The 30th of June, 1982 rollout from Palmdale. The 1st of July, 1982 overland transport from Palmdale to Edwards. The 5th of July, 1982 delivery to KSC. The 18th of December, 1982 flight readiness firing, FRF. The 25th of January, 1983 second FRF. Performed due to a hydrogen leak having occurring during the first FRF. The 4th of April, 1983 first flight, STS-6. The 28th of January, 1986 structural failure, STS-51L. Flights and modifications, edit. After its first flight in April, 1983, Challenger quickly became the workhorse of NASA's Space Shuttle fleet, flying 6 of 9 Space Shuttle missions in 1983 and 1984. Even when the orbiters Discovery and Atlantis joined the fleet, Challenger flew 3 missions a year from 1983 to 1985. Challenger, along with Atlantis, was modified at Kennedy Space Center to be able to carry the Centaur G upper stage in its payload bay. If flight STS-51L had been successful, Challenger's next mission would have been the deployment of the Ulysses probe with the Centaur to study the polar regions of the Sun. Challenger flew the first American woman, African American, Dutchman, and Canadian into space, carried 3 Space Lab missions, and performed the first night launch and night landing of a space shuttle. Final mission and destruction, edit. Main article, Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. STS-51L was the orbiter's 10th and final flight, initially planned to launch on the 26th of January, 1986, after several technical and paperwork delays. The mission attracted huge media attention, as one of the crew was a civilian school teacher, Krista McAuliffe, who was assigned to carry out live lessons from the orbiter, as part of NASA's Teacher in Space project. Other members would deploy the TDRS-B satellite and conduct comet observations. Challenger blasted off at 11:38 a.m. East on the 28th of January, 1986. Just over a minute into the flight, a faulty booster joint opened up, leading to a flame that melted securing struts, which resulted in a catastrophic structural failure and explosion of the external tank. The resulting pressure waves and aerodynamic forces destroyed the orbiter, resulting in the loss of all of the crew. Challenger was the first space shuttle to be destroyed in a mission disaster. The collected debris of the vessel is currently buried in decommissioned missile silos at Launch Complex 31, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. A section of the fuselage recovered from Space Shuttle Challenger can also be found at the Forever Remembered Memorial at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex in Florida. Debris from the orbiter sometimes washes up on the Florida coast. This is collected and transported to the silos for storage. Because of its early loss, Challenger was the only space shuttle that never wore the NASA meatball logo, and was never modified with the METS glass cockpit. The tail was never fitted with a drag chute, which was fitted to the remaining orbiters in 1992. Challenger and sister ship Columbia are the only two shuttles that never visited the Mir Space Station or the International Space Station. In September 2020, Netflix released Challenger, The Final Flight, a 4-part miniseries created by Stephen Leckart and Glenn Zipper documenting the tragedy firsthand. Lawsuits, edit. In March 1988, the federal government and Morton Thiokol Incorporated agreed to pay $7.7 million in cash and annuities to the families of 4 of the 7 Challenger astronauts as part of a settlement aimed at avoiding lawsuits in the nation's worst space disaster, according to government documents. The documents show that Morton Thiokol, which manufactured the faulty solid rocket boosters blamed for the accident, paid 60%, or $4,641,000. The remainder, $3,094,000, was paid by the government. In September 1988, a federal judge dismissed 2 lawsuits seeking $3 billion from space shuttle rocket maker Morton Thiokol Incorporated by Roger Boscioli, a former company engineer who warned against the ill-fated 1986 Challenger launch. List of missions, edit. Challenger rolls out from the Orbiter Processing Facility, OPF, to the Vehicle Assembly Building, VAB, in 1983. Challenger served as structural test article STA-099 before being retrofitted as an orbiter. Date designation launch pad landing location notes mission duration 1 the 4th of April 1983 STS-6LC-39 Edwards Air Force Base deployed TDRSA. First spacewalk during a space shuttle mission. 5 days, 00 hours, 23 minutes, 42 seconds. To the 18th of June, 1983 STS-7LC-39 Edwards Air Force Base Sally Ride becomes first American woman in space. Deployed 2 communications satellites, including Anik C2. 6 days, 02 hours, 23 minutes, 59 seconds. 3 the 30th of August, 1983 STS-8LC-39 Edwards Air Force Base Guion Blue Ford becomes first African American in space. First shuttle night launch and night landing. Deployed in Sat-1B. carried 261,900 envelopes stamped to commemorate the 25th anniversary of NASA, most of which were sold to the public. 6 days, 01 hours, 08 minutes, 43 seconds. For the 3rd of February, 1984 STS-41B-LC-39 Kennedy Space Center first untethered spacewalk using the Manned Maneuvering Unit. Deployed Wester and Palapar B-2 communications satellites unsuccessfully, both were retrieved during STS-51O. 7 days, 23 hours, 15 minutes, 55 seconds. 5 the 6th of April, 1984 STS-41CLC-39 Edwards Air Force Base Solar Maximum Mission Service Mission. 6 days, 23 hours, 40 minutes, 07 seconds. 6 the 5th of October, 1984 STS-41GLC-39 Kennedy Space Center first mission to carry 2 women. Mark Garneau becomes first Canadian in space. Catherine D. Sullivan becomes first American woman to make a spacewalk. Deployed Earth Radiation Budget Satellite. 8 days, 05 hours, 23 minutes, 33 seconds. 7 the 29th of April, 1985 STS-51BLC-39 Edwards Air Force Base carried Space Lab 3. 7 days, 00 hours, 08 minutes, 46 seconds. 8 the 29th of July, 1985 STS-51FLC-39 Edwards Air Force Base carried Space Lab 2. Only STS mission to abort after launch. 7 days, 22 hours, 45 minutes, 26 seconds. 9 the 30th of October, 1985 STS-61LC-39 Edwards Air Force Base carried German Space Lab D1. Wubbo Ekels becomes the first Dutchman in space. 7 days, 00 hours, 44 minutes, 51 seconds. 10 the 28th of January, 1986 STS-51LLC-39B did not land. Planned to land at Kennedy Space Center. First mission to have a private citizen in space, Krista McAuliffe. Broke up after launch, killing all 7 astronauts on board. Would have deployed TDRSB 0 days, 00 hours, 01 minute, 13 seconds. Mission and Tribute Insignias, edit. NASA Orbiter Tribute for Space Shuttle Challenger. Mission insignia for Challenger flights. STS-6, STS-7, STS-8, STS-41B, STS-41C, STS-41G. STS-51B, STS-51F, STS-61A, STS-51L, STS-61F asterisk. Asterisk mission cancelled due to loss of Challenger on STS-51L. See also, edit. 1 list of human space flights. 2 list of Space Shuttle crews. 3 list of Space Shuttle missions. 4 timeline of Space Shuttle missions. 5 list of human space flights chronologically. 6 Challenger flag. 7 Challenger Cols, mountain range on Pluto named for the Space Shuttle. References, edit.